Students of the Hebrew Bible have long recognized that the Exodus narrative prefigures the temple. The nation of Israel's dramatic flight is more than a story of escape from slavery. It is the same divine journey of the soul the temple portrays. But most scholars have only focused on the first part of the Exodus, the Passover deliverance from Egypt to the presence of God at Mount Sinai, as the complete model for the temple. But Sinai was not the end of the journey. Their migration continued in the Book of Numbers, with a 40-year wandering in the desert. How this second journey fits into the overall structure of the temple progression has not really been addressed in the literature. This episode, and a few more that follow, explore how the narratives of the house of Israel in the 5 books of Moses work together to reflect the entirety of the divine plan as reflected in the temple. Just as the approach to God in the temple is organized around 2 major divisions, the courtyard and holy place, the full migration of Israel from Egypt to its promised land is also composed of 2 major journeys, the one from Egypt to Sinai and the one from Sinai to the promised land. These 2 journeys are best understood in the light of the 2 grand divisions of the temple progression and provide deeper meaning to the details when they are read within that framework. This grand division of the divine plan reflected in the temple and the Exodus of Israel is echoed in Malachi 3, which states that there would be 2 messengers that would come to the people. The first messenger would prepare the way, and then another messenger, the Lord himself, would come to the temple and deliver the message of the covenant. Jesus likened these 2 messengers to the ministry of John the Baptist and his own ministry, the former preparing the way for the latter, which was greater. Consequently, it can be shown that these 2 grand divisions of the divine plan appear to be administered by 2 grand priestly orders. The first division is the preparatory path of the Aaronic priest, and the second division is the higher Melchizedek path of the high priest. We will also explore how these 2 grand divisions appear to be governed by 2 collections of laws. A set of lesser laws that are meant to prepare the people to enter, laws by which they are cleansed and purified, and a higher set of laws that are meant to create holiness among the people. While Genesis explains the origin of the temple and covenant and the birth of a nation, followed by its collective descent into Egypt, the book of Exodus provides the narrative of the initial journey, the first grand division of the divine plan, wherein Israel has preparatory experiences and preparatory laws that echo the temple courtyard. Exodus concludes with the nation at the door of the temple, at Mount Sinai, where the people were prepared to enter as a kingdom of priests. At this threshold, a higher law was given. The presence of God was experienced. But collectively speaking, this does not appear to be the fullness of the Holy of Holies, but only the initial door into a higher path. The people needed to press forward and live higher laws and become not just a cleansed or pure people through the courtyard, but a holy and sanctified people through the second journey outlined in the Book of Numbers. In this second journey, the metaphorical journey inside the temple's holy place, they grapple with higher laws, higher expectations, but they also experienced higher blessings, such as God organizing a priesthood among them and establishing a temple they could carry with them throughout this second journey. A reminder that they were symbolically walking in the temple each day. To emphasize this point, God dwelt among them in this second walk. It was a symbolic return to the Garden of Eden. The revelations of the temple, priesthood, and the laws in Leviticus stand at the center of the 2 journeys. As will be seen in a future episode where Jack Welch will again join me, Leviticus reflects some specific teachings of these 2 grand divisions. The initial chapters of Leviticus focus on the courtyard requirements, whereby the people are cleansed and purified. The latter chapters, which scholars designate the Holiness Code, reflect the higher teachings of the holy place, through which the people would become holy, like God is holy. The entire Exodus is not just the story of a nation escaping bondage. It is the 2-part story of the way of deliverance and exaltation of all people. It is a path filled with the symbolic teachings of heaven's code. This episode focuses on the initial path through the courtyard of the Exodus and the initial entrance into the temple of the Exodus, the Sinai mountain of the Lord. Just as one's journey through the temple begins with death at the altar of sacrifice, so too the deliverance of Israel in the Exodus was only accomplished through the death of the firstborn. To avoid the destroying angel of death, each family sacrificed a lamb, a substitute. The blood of the lamb, if placed around the doorway of their homes, protected everyone inside. Through it, their homes became momentary temples, life in the midst of death. Through the sacrifice of the firstborn, Israel is released from bondage and can begin their journey back home. This moment inaugurates the great festival of Passover. Later, when Israel builds a permanent temple, the firstborn Passover lambs of each family were sacrificed in the courtyard at the altar. This teaches an essential truth. The path back to God begins with a sacrifice of self. God declared that all Israel is his firstborn. Therefore, all must be placed on the altar. While a substitute may be offered, this does not nullify the idea that the substitute still represents each person upon the altar. They must give up their own life to walk the path of God. Passover frees Israel from bondage in Egypt, but they are not yet fully free. Their enemy, Egypt's army, still pursues them. Only when they pass through the sea of water is their enemy destroyed, and they can sing the song of redemption recorded in Exodus 15. The Apostle Paul later described this moment as the nation of Israel's baptism, the destruction of their body of sin. The destruction of the body of sin in the covenant of baptism frees one from serving sin, just as the destruction of the Pharaoh's army in the sea makes Israel free from serving the Pharaoh. The Exodus story suggests, then, that one can only sing the song of redemption when the blood of the Passover lamb works together with the Red Sea baptism. Both events contain a substitute death for Israel. The firstborn Lamb of God is the substitute sacrifice for the firstborn Israel, a surrender of one's own life to God. And the Egyptian army is a symbolic substitute for the sins of Israel buried in the water. Sacrificing one's self to God and sacrificing one's sin together sets a person free. These two substitute sacrifices may prefigure the two goats of the Day of Atonement, the goat for the Lord that is sacrificed, and the goat for Azazel, the scapegoat, that represents the enemy or sin that is driven out. After passing through the sea, Israel travels 3 days through the wilderness. They find water, but it is bitter, undrinkable. The place is called Marah, which means bitter. God commands Moses to place a tree into the water, and the waters become sweet. Then the text states, "There he made for them a statute and ordinance, and there he proved or tested them." This is the first use of such language indicating God giving them laws and testing them. This is preparatory to the higher law given at Sinai. God states, if they will continue to follow him and keep his commandments, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians. I am the Lord that healeth thee. In the temple courtyard, the altar of sacrifice was followed by another sacred object, the laver of water, where priests were washed, anointed, and clothed before entering deeper into the temple. These rites could symbolize purification, but also healing. Ancient rituals even spoke of such rites as healing the wounds of death. Sacrifice, water, healing. The journey toward holiness has begun. Soon Israel arrives at a place called Elim. The scriptures say almost nothing about this location. Only one detail is recorded. There were 12 wells and 70 palm trees. These numbers do not seem random. 12 represents the tribes of Israel, or each of its princes. 70 represents the nations of the world, or the 70 elders who would soon help govern. Elim could symbolize the need for a divine community to be organized with sacred leadership, but no more detail is provided at this point. Having enjoyed their reprieve among the 12 freshwater springs, the Israelites launched their journey through the wilderness of Sinai and immediately murmur for want of food and water. In reply, God sends a simple meal of daily manna and quail to sustain them, and He brings forth water from a rock. Their daily harvest of manna sustains Israel throughout their journey. In the Israelite tradition, the initial journey of the Exodus from Egypt to Sinai is equated to the grain harvest. The springtime week-long Feast of Unleavened Bread, which began at Passover, was inaugurated by offering the first fruits of the barley harvest to the Lord. Barley is the first grain crop to ripen. When the later crop of wheat becomes white, ready to harvest, the first fruits of this grain were offered to the Lord at the beginning of the Feast of Weeks, or Shavuot, better known by its Greek name Pentecost, the 50th day following Passover. Traditionally, the first Shavuot, or Pentecost, was celebrated at the foot of Mount Sinai, just prior to entering. So the journey from Egypt to the foot of Mount Sinai was celebrated every year in connection with the grain harvest, from the barley harvest to the wheat harvest. Likewise, bread was offered at the altar of the temple courtyard every day, and wheat bread was eaten by the priests when they were ordained at the door of the temple. The bread was not just food. It represented the daily sustenance God provides anyone who walks His path of the divine plan. There is even bread inside the temple's holy place, and also in the Holy of Holies, letting us know that God's nourishment is constant. But this higher bread will be discussed another time. Next, Israel reaches Mount Sinai, the mountain of God. In Exodus 19, the people are told to wash and prepare themselves to become a kingdom of priests. And in Exodus 24, Moses records all the commandments the Lord had given them so far, including those outlined in chapters 20 through 23, into a book called the Book of the Covenant. He builds an altar next to the mountain, causes sacrifices to be made, reads the book to the people of Israel, and places them under a covenant to obey the laws as contained in the scripture he had written. The people covenant to obey them. All this occurs before Moses ascends the mountain and receives another law on tables of stone. Moses then takes several leaders of Israel up into the mountain, and something astonishing happens. They saw God and did eat and drink. This meal likely prefigures the sacred table that is inside the temple in the mountain, the showbread placed before the Lord. The table likely represents the third and final harvest festival of the temple, Sukkot, or the Feast of Tabernacles, the feast inside the temple. After all the harvest, all the fruits and vegetables, not just the grains, are gathered in. You would think seeing God would be the ultimate moment, the pinnacle. Yet the story contains a curious detail. While the others remain, Moses is told by God to ascend higher, further into the cloud. This moment reveals an important principle. The path to God unfolds in stages. One can see God in the mountain, like the leaders of Israel, before one fully ascends and enters His presence, as does Moses alone. They have only entered the holy place of the temple, which is considered before the Lord, or in the presence of the Lord, a liminal space where God can meet them and one can see God, but not yet experience the fullness of God in the Holy of Holies. Moses alone goes up. He was prepared and experienced this fullness before, as outlined in a previous episode. He goes up and obtains another higher law written on stone. He goes up and obtains the instructions for temple worship and holiness. He receives further instruction from the Lord, because Israel's journey is not yet complete. Paul assures us that the higher state Moses obtained is not beyond the reach of Moses' followers. Yes, Moses alone was glorified at this moment, but Paul goes on to say, we all are changed or transfigured into the same image, but not all at once, rather from glory to glory and by the Spirit. There are stages to this progressive journey, and Israel has yet a long way to walk. Centuries later, the life of Jesus Christ follows the same pattern. His story begins with Passover imagery. He is called the firstborn son, and when he begins his ministry, he declares that he has come to set the captives free and casts out evil spirits. He then heals the sick. He then calls 12 apostles. He feeds the multitudes with bread, and eventually he ascends a mountain with a select few and is transfigured before them. The same pattern of the first journey of the Exodus occurs again in the initial stages of the life of Christ. But this is not the end. There is more. Jesus comes down from the mount and continues his ministry to bring his followers to God. But his focus appears to shift to helping them live higher laws and lives of consecration. Likewise, Moses comes down from the mount and continues his ministry to bring Israel fully to God. But now his focus is on the higher law and temple holiness he is about to introduce to them. Stay tuned to future episodes where we explore the temple and the higher law and discuss how Israel's wandering in the wilderness was meant to be their time to learn how to walk this higher path and become a holy nation. Until next time, keep asking, seeking, and knocking to better understand heaven's code.